Good morning, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you to the Work Avenue Business of Retail webinar. I'm really excited to have three esteemed panelists joining me today. Unfortunately, Stuart Leviton, given the current situation, has had to pull out because he supplies to Primark and to Arcadia, and as you can well imagine, production schedules have been massively impacted. So I'm really sorry, but unfortunately he won't be able to join us this morning. But I'm just going to ask Ollie Shorts to wave now. Ollie Shorts is the founder of Seed and Bean Chocolate. Marc Granditer, who runs Base Clothing, waving now. And also Sara Gatoff, who was a former buyer at Tesco and Harrods, waving now. So really delighted to welcome all of them. Thank you very much. Just to say to everybody, Work Avenue, for those of you who don't know us, we help people to either find a job or to start up and grow and develop your own business. So I head up the business team. Kim Davidson, who is now waving now, is my colleague and business advisor. So if anybody's looking for one-to-one, free of charge, one-to-one business advice, please do email us, and I will obviously make sure we leave our details on the chat. But if anybody wants a free of charge one-to-one business advice appointment, please email us and we'd be delighted to help. We also obviously have a whole employment team. So if you're also looking for a job, then our employment team will be delighted to help with that as well. Finally, just before we get started, two events that are coming up in November. We have a pricing and negotiation skills workshop. So for anybody who finds it hard to establish how to set prices, how to negotiate prices, especially if you're kind of freelance or a consultant and are thinking of how to go about setting prices and negotiating with any suppliers that you might be having, or with retailers, then please do sign up for that. That is on the 12th of November. And we also have a sales for startup workshop on the 23rd of November. So if anybody needs to know to refine your sales technique, then that will be running on the 23rd of November. So I am now going to hand over to Ollie Shorts, who is a member of our WeHub building, and I'm delighted.
Can you not? Because my wife has locked herself out and I need to go and open the door. So can you come to me second or third? This is what happens when you work at home.
Okay, so I'm now going to delighted to introduce Marc, who will do a short introduction on himself before Sara, and then come to Ollie.
Thank you very much, Jo. My name is Marc Granditer. I am the Managing Director of Base Children's Wear Limited. We are a retailer of designer and branded children's clothes. Currently, we have 7 stores and a website. So as you can imagine, there's quite a lot going on at the moment. I've been working in this family business, started by my great-grandfather many, many years ago. I'm actually the 4th generation. My son works in the business, and we are facing very, very interesting times at the moment. We have the benefit of the experience of the previous lockdown, not to be too thrown by the current situation that we find ourselves in this week. What else can I say about myself? Not used to talking about myself. First of all, thank you, Jo, for calling me, referring to me as esteemed. No one's done that before, and I quite like it. So much appreciated. we started our business started as a tailoring business, and soon developed into a menswear business. And when I joined the business about 30 years ago, we were selling branded and designer menswear clothing. We had 24 stores at the time, based primarily in East London and Essex. And it was quite simple. It was quite a simple business at the time. Retail was retail. There was no other conflicting marketplaces. And we had our ups and downs, to be honest. It wasn't always successful. We had good times and bad times, like every business. So I think my personal experience is a real business experience. I've seen how difficult business can be. I've lived through various times where we've been forced to restructure businesses. I've also seen some good times, and therefore I don't come to this meeting with anything other than realism as to the pressures and the difficulties of running your own business. I would say that ultimately it's a wonderful thing to do. It's a wonderful goal. And I, for better or worse, probably wouldn't have changed anything over the years. And at the end of the day, you know, when you go through difficult times, as we're doing at the moment, you know, you pull on your previous experiences, you pull on all the lessons you've learned over the years, and you know, you always get through. There's always a way through. So I hope I'll be able to offer some good advice. And yeah, that's it, Joe. Any other questions later, of course.
Thank you. Ollie, now you've let your wife into the house and she's not stuck outside. Over to you.
What was the question? I don't have a clue.
You, yourself, your business journey, how you started Seed and Bean.
Well, Seed and Bean is within the family. My dad was put in touch with somebody who had wonderful tasting chocolate, and he came back one day and put the chocolate on our table when we were having dinner and asked what we thought about it. And it was just the most delicious chocolate that we've ever tasted, and we knew that we could do something from then on. You know, taste is really important, but it's also how you market the business, and we knew that we had the skills in the business that my dad ran, and also where I was working, which was at Ted Baker Footwear. So we'd all had experience in different sort of areas, and as I said, we knew that it was great tasting chocolate, but it's all about how you can market it, and that's what we did. So it's been going over 10 years now. We're still pretty small, still trying to make our way within the market. It's, you know, very crowded, as you can imagine, within chocolate. But we've had a good time over the last year. I mean, it's incredible what's happened during lockdown for us. Our online sales have gone through the roof. We did online sales in the month of March and April more than we did in the whole of 2019, which shows the power of the internet and what you can do. So hopefully that will continue. But that's Seed and Bean, and that's what we do. It's organic, fair trade, ethical chocolate, lots of different wacky flavors such as lavender, mandarin and ginger. So that's how we differentiate ourselves from your Lints and green and blacks.
And I'm going to do a big shout out to you, Ollie, because just recently, which I hope is still correct, you just got listed at Sainsbury's.
Yeah, we just listed at Sainsbury's. How long we'll be there, I have no idea. It's very difficult to sell chocolate in a very crowded market, but fingers crossed we can survive, but I have my doubts.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that is even getting the listing, I think is fantastic. Brilliant. So well done on that.
Very good.
And finally, last but not least, Sara Gatoff of Buying.
So I'm Sara. I'm one of the people that makes or used to make Ollie's life really, really difficult, because I started off my career or my retail career on a graduate training scheme straight out of university. I absolutely loved buying. I started off at Harrods. I bought Christmas hampers, and I then moved to Arcadia, to Topshop and to Debenhams, and then via BHS and Mothercare, and the worst department in the world. I'll never ever do it again. Buying hosiery is just the worst thing ever. It was just awful. But I went from there to buy baby wear and kids wear at Tesco, which I loved. And it was the start of clothing at Tesco. It was a really, really exciting time to be there. And I loved retail and I loved traveling the globe. But it wasn't a particularly family-friendly career. I did 3 months in China at a time. It wasn't great. And so I set up a retail consultancy offering buying advice to those starting out in the industry. And I still do that. We cover everything from who should I approach to what should I sell, what product should I sell, what price should I sell, how should I do it, what should I say, how am I going to get a listing at Sainsbury's, who is the buyer at Sainsbury's, what do they want to hear and see from me. I'm delighted to be here, so thank you, Joe. It's lovely to meet Mark and Ollie and you all, and I'm happy to answer as many questions as I can.
So I've got some questions for the panel, but the way that I'm going to run this is if you have any questions. In fact, I have one question from somebody who I don't think is here. Jordan J doesn't appear to be here, but maybe he'll turn up. But it's quite an interesting question anyway. But please write your questions in the chat, and then I will kind of aim to get to you. So that's how we're going to run it. But first of all, I'm going to ask Mark, given obviously the current huge uncertainty with having a kind of actual retail store, Mark, you know, what are your recommendations for building an e-commerce presence, really? Because obviously you went from stores, you know, having a lot of stores to now, as you say, you've changed the direction of Base to make it children's orientated, and I'm guessing e-commerce was a later development for you. So how, you know, what are your recommendations about having a retail store and having e-commerce store, and what would your recommendations be for building an e-commerce presence?
Well, just for your information, we currently have 7 stores and an e-commerce website. I anticipate the e-commerce website this year will account for more than 50% of our turnover. Going back just 2 years, it was about 20% of our turnover. So for our particular business, and bear in mind, every business is different, and I don't, you know, every product is different, but for clothing in particular, e-commerce website is absolutely essential part of our strategy. It's the front and center of our business today. I guess because I'm quite old school, I'm comfortable with bricks and mortar retail. It's what I know. I've had to learn the e-commerce business from scratch. I'm still learning. It doesn't come naturally to me, but I employ people younger than myself that know what they're doing.
Oh, I think Mark's just
brand awareness and a sort of a backup plan. You know, we can sort of, in terms of our cash flow, in terms of our turnover, we sort of know what we're doing with stores. We know how.
Mark, your Wi-Fi is going in and out a little bit. So you've just frozen. Okay, he's gone off. Ollie, I'm going to ask you, because you've obviously got presence in a lot of stores, but have also said that the e-commerce was vital to you during lockdown. How can you explain the different channels, the different sales channels that you've got in place for Seed and Bean?
We've obviously got the traditional wholesale model, which, you know, during lockdown still worked pretty well for us. Getting into, you know, those retail stores, because they were still trading, but the footfall was just, you know, down significantly. So for us, you know, the move to, well, we've always been online and we've always had that presence online, but it was more to do with the focus of the business just changed overnight. You know, we put all our money and energy into our website and building our database up, putting more Facebook adverts, and Instagram. I really don't have much of a clue about Facebook and Instagram, but we employ someone who does, and she's done a really great job getting those customers in. But you know, it was you know, you came into sort of lockdown, you were very nervous, very scared about what was going to happen, and it was amazing for us to see the increase in traffic and the increase of purchases on our website. But I think a lot of it was to do with people who wanted to trade up during a really difficult period. Instead of, you know, buying, you know, their £5 bottle of wine, they're buying their £10 bottle of wine. Instead of buying their £1.50 bar of chocolate, they'll trade up to that £3 bar of chocolate. And we fitted in really nicely for a lot of consumers who did want to trade up and go for something a little bit more luxurious, because, you know, the only luxury that you were having during sort of a 6 to 8 week period was food, and that's what people were buying into. So for us, it was fantastic, and it's still going strong. You know, our sales online have decreased from what they were doing in March and April and May, but considering where we were at the beginning of the year, it's incredible how loyal the customers have continued to be.
And how effective is Amazon? Because I also see that you're on Amazon. How effective is that as a sales channel or a
We don't do too much on Amazon because it's really, really tricky. I know other businesses do so well on Amazon. We haven't really cracked it. What we have cracked is just our own e-commerce website, and feeding into different channels such as Facebook and Instagram. Amazon is there. We don't do it ourselves. We let someone else deal with it, and they just purchase from us on a wholesale model. So it's a little bit different with us. And I know a lot of other brands, they go direct with Amazon. We don't do that. So it's a little bit tricky. We'd much rather people come to our website. But during lockdown, we gave everybody free postage and packaging. So it didn't matter what they were ordering, even if it was, you know, a £1 bar of chocolate, like a mini bar. We'd lose money on that purchase, but we're hoping that, you know, over the course of sort of 2-3 months down the line, that they're going to come back and they'll buy even more. And it's not therefore going to be free P&P, but they've had it, they enjoy it, and they want to have some more. So there's lots of different things that we chose to change online. But Amazon for us, it's always a tricky one because it's got to be a high price good, and we sell our bars in cases of 8. So you'd have to buy a case rather than just buy a single unit that you can buy direct from us.
Mark, you're back. Do you want to carry on? You're on mute, but oh no, you're not.
Yeah, I don't even know where I was when I got cut off. So you have to remind me.
You were somewhere on having a good brand awareness.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm trying to get an extra cable to improve the connection, by the way. Okay, so someone's getting it for me. Okay. Yeah. So going back to retail stores, you know, for us, it's a marketing exercise. We're in quite a competitive market space, and having retail stores for us was a point of difference. But it's quite clear to me that the future of our business lies in our online performance, and we've seen huge growth this year without that wouldn't surprise anyone. And I think the statistic is that it's sped up the move from traditional retail to online that normally would have taken 5 years. It's sort of condensed it down to 1 year. And going forwards, we're going to be very much a online first business. And by the way, online can mean many different things. You have online desktop, you have online mobile, and 80% of our business is through our mobile site. So I think that's a very, very important consideration. Thank you. Thanks very much. This should improve my connection. We are a mobile first online business. 80% of our turnover is through mobile phones. I think that will only increase as mobile phone technology improves. It's a surprising statistic. Mobile business is getting stronger each and every year. Our business from iPads, etc., is declining to virtually nothing. So it's 80% mobile, 20% desktop, and as such, you know, it's different considerations when designing a website, when designing the functionality of a website. The user experience on mobile is very different to desktop. And I guess most people here would naturally be inclined to shopping or looking on a desktop website. But the truth is that the new generation of shoppers is buying from their mobile. So I would say very, very important that you look at the mobile experience of any sort of website development that you do first and foremost. We're obviously facing very major challenges at the moment, but I think the important thing is the power of positive thinking. You know, there's a solution to every problem. Whenever there's losers, there's also winners. And I would just say that, it's taken me probably 30 years to learn this lesson. So I'm not pretending I had the right mindset in the early days, but I certainly do now try and stay and remain positive in everything I do. And that is the most important thing of all, because if you don't believe in what you do and you don't believe in the opportunity of what you do, however difficult the environment, then you simply won't succeed. So positive thinking would be the most important thing that you have to bring to any sort of idea or business that you plan to launch. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to move to a question for Sara, but I think Ollie can also, given your experience in selling into a retailer, Ollie, you might have some interesting points, but let's start with Sara. Sara, what would the best approach be? And actually, if people want to put in the chat whether they're trying to sell into the big retailers, like the well-known, or local retailers, that would actually be quite helpful, because then Sara could start kind of amending her answer. But what's the best approach when trying to even get started to speak to to one of the big retailers?
I think I would start, Joe, a bit before that and say
Okay.
that actually before you even get to that, because otherwise people like me or old me, will make mincemeat of you, and that's not what you want. So it really starts with your idea and what you think your business should be. And what I always say to people when they're starting out is, if you've got an idea or you've got a hobby and you love it and you think it's great, that doesn't make it a business. It only makes it a business if somebody is actually prepared to pay you for what you either make or you can sell. So working on the basis that you have fabulous things that you make or you sell, it's then about thinking who would want to buy that and where would those people want to buy it. And for 99% of people, I think Ollie included, you can actually run a really successful business without tackling anybody that's huge. And unless you are, I'm looking at Ramon, unless you're a really established business, you don't want to deal with anybody. I've worked in the supermarket sector and I've worked in the high street sector, and you really don't want to deal with anybody in those sectors until you are a big player, because the terms and conditions, the payment terms, the delivery terms, what they make you, the hoops that they make you jump through in terms of safety and manufacturing, it's just not achievable anymore. I actually, Mark was absolutely right. When Mark started out and I started out, you definitely could do it when you were starting out and you were small. Now I would say it is virtually impossible with anybody that doesn't have, I would say, a minimum of 5 years experience of trading at that level to even approach one of the big supermarkets or one of the big retailers. It's just too hard. But it also doesn't mean that you can't be successful. Ollie himself has proved that actually he's done brilliantly, and Mark's done brilliantly, and lots of other people have, without going that route. So it's not the be all and end all.
But we've got, I know there's a Jodie Cavendish who's on here, who's just managed to get some of her baskets into TK Maxx.
Brilliant.
So she's got any tips of of trying to sell into the major retailers? What would your top tip be, I guess?
So is that, Joe, is that me or is that Jodie?
And then I'll go to Ollie as to how he managed to get into Sainsbury's.
I think now they make it very, very hard for you to find out who the buyer is for the department. At one point, you could pitch up in reception and we would see you. You can't do that now. Not even even before COVID. The switchboard won't tell you who the buyer is for that department. They certainly won't give you a buyer's email address or a name. They'll give you a general one, and sending an email just goes most times into a general pot. It's persistence. It's sometimes meeting people at a trade show. It's sometimes done through a collaboration or sometimes through somebody that you know. But it's honestly, it's really hard, and selling to independents is a much better way to go.
Good. Ollie, what was your experience, of selling into Sainsbury's?
It was a long, arduous process. I first went into their offices about 4 years ago. Yeah. Absolutely ballsed it up. And I came out of that, I was like, this is not, we're not getting the listing. And we didn't. I went in and we've got about 18 flavors, and I went in, I was like, we've got 18 amazing flavors of chocolate. What ones do you want? And
oh no.
Yeah,
that's an absolute disaster. Never do that. Never, ever do that.
I learned that was the first time I ever had a conversation with a major. And I never really, I didn't have the network that I have nowadays to bounce off it, ideas off. And if I did, I would have gone in completely different, and I think I'd be in a different place to where I am now. But I went and I just badgered the buyer all the time, sent them samples, sent them emails, when's your next range review, asking the questions, and they churned the whole time. Literally, I think I went through about 3 or 4 different buyers in the space of 4 years to actually get to the buyer who gave us the opportunity. But I just went in with a completely different tact of, well, this is what you're ranging at the moment. These are 3 flavors that we offer that no other chocolate brand is going to offer. So every single purchase of our bar is going to be incremental to your category. And that's how I sold in the dream, really. It's not, it's so hard even then to go and get the sales, and we're struggling. We're not hitting the rate that we need to do within Sainsbury's, and we have to, continue to drive and get that brand awareness increase. But it's still really hard. I always say that the hard thing, is getting in, but it's even harder staying in. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they start celebrating, we got a listing, Tesco's, Waitrose, Sainsbury's, only celebrate once you're in, and you're really in, because you'll be out before you know it. But for me, it was all about selling them, not just 3 or 4 bars that absolutely is going to drive innovation into a very, very crowded category. And they gave us a chance, and fingers crossed we're still surviving in a year's time with Sainsbury's. That would be nice.
Well done, you. It's also, Ollie, can I add to that? It's also what people don't understand, and what we try and help people understand all the time, is that when you're selling to a retailer like Sainsbury's or Tesco, where the shelf space is fixed, when they take you, they have to take something else off. And that something else may be something that makes them more money than you. So you have to have you have to have a big dose of confidence, and a brilliant product, but you also have to have a really good reason why they should take something else off the shelf and give that space to you. When you're dealing with independents, or when you're dealing online, you haven't got such a constricting amount of physical space. And that's why there's just been a question on the chat about a mix.
Is that from Lee? Is that from
Lee? It disappeared.
Yeah. So I've got Lee, do you want to unmute yourself and just ask the question? Because I think it's relevant to can you also tell us what you sell?
Yeah, absolutely. I've just launched today, actually, on Ocado and Fetch, it's fun day. It's been fun at this point. It's a brand in the pet care space. We make great grooming gifts and treats to kind of indulge your pets. So it's great timing with lockdown and all the news about dog ownerships and all those things. But yeah, my question to Sarah was really, now we designed things to fundamental things. So it's interesting when you're straddling the online world and the brick and mortar world. So I used to work at a major high street retailer, so I understood things like the importance of shelf ready packaging and you know, branding and all the kind of fundamental things about where your brand name appears on the pack, so it's not hidden by shelf strips and all that.
Absolutely.
Kind of so we locked all that into our product design, and then because a number of pet shops around the country are very small, we were able to find an efficient way of getting things packed into like 6s rather than 12s or 24s. And then obviously everything changed. We discovered we needed to pivot more to online retailers, and actually none of that really matters in an online world because they talk in units anyway. So it doesn't matter how many units are in the box, and all of our shelf ready packaging is now looking a little bit redundant. But what we have had to do is come up with, you know, lifestyle imagery and back of pack photography and 15 different shots of a bottle of dog shampoo, whereas obviously physical store, the customer just picks it up and looks at it and puts it back. Or hopefully not put it back. So yeah, any advice on what you do when you have to sort of straddle both worlds?
Well, we might
sorry, Joe, I've just launched in. Is that me?
I might also go to Mark on that in terms of straddling both worlds. So
well, I think, yeah, Lee, good luck first and foremost. Big day for you today. I think you're right to target the online retailers. I mean, we have a very different strategy. Our buying strategy is very different. Our bricks and mortar to our website. And although everything that's in our bricks and mortar stores is available online, we have a very large selection of product that's available online that's not in stores, because quite simply, there's no space issue online. And we need a variety of products to have authority in the marketplace that we aim to be in. So I do think that in some ways, you know, penetrating the online market is a not only is it the obviously the growing market, but it's actually probably from a small supplier's point of view, maybe an easier target to aim for. The question is, you know, who are the online retailers that are worth targeting? Are there enough of them? You know, you probably do need to balance it up. But yeah, in terms of our strategy, we are much more open-minded to small suppliers, offering them space on our website as opposed to in stores.
And Ollie, what's your thoughts on packaging? Because you're obviously making a product which isn't the same as dog accessories, but you know, it is probably, you might have to have different types of packaging. Any advice for Lee on that?
No, I think having small case sizes is actually really nice for the independents, and especially those wholesalers who might look to take you on. It gives those wholesalers, from my experience, we actually had case sizes of 8, and most of our competitors will be 10s and 12s. So it's only a small difference, but to the small independents, it gives them a little bit more of an easier chance to sell it in their heads. So we've actually had great success of having small case sizes. Ocado, I assume they're going to buy in cases anyway. It's really when you come to e-com and your own online store where they're going to be buying in units. But as long as you can find a fulfillment warehouse that can fulfill your orders online, then it really shouldn't be a problem having 6s, 12s, 24s, or whatever. It's I think for the independents, they'll take you up on having a small case size because it minimizes their risk.
Just before we finish with your question, Lee, I'd like to network you with Rivka.
Don't worry, we've done that before.
Okay, fine, all right.
I invited Lee to come and Work Avenue this morning.
Okay, so
I'm networking for Work Avenue.
Okay, Rivka's has got, so if anybody's got any dog products, Rivka can promote her business on the chat. I'll let her do that better than me, but she's got an e-commerce platform for dogs and dogs accessories. So there we are. If anybody's selling anything, please speak to Rivka. Okay, so a couple more questions here. Barney, is yours a question or is it just an observation? I don't know what you do, Barney.
Hi, no, it's an observation. We do leather and travel goods, and we've sold suitcases and travel goods and wallets and purses to TK Maxx and other places. And it's not all that glitters is gold. I mean, sometimes you think that it's really great because you're in there, but they really squeeze you and they're really difficult. And actually, sometimes you're better off sometimes not working with them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And then we've got a really nice question from, I think your name's Claudio.
Yes, correct.
Yes. Do you want to ask that question, Claudio, rather than it's nice to have people on here?
Yes. I'm sorry if I don't have the video because I have some issue with the camera.
Don't worry.
I think it's a question for Mark. What suggestion do you have to start a new e-commerce business in women accessories from scratch? And if he thinks that it's better to start by choosing a high price tag or by concentrating on high volume?
Over to you, Mark.
Well, that's a lot of responsibility you're giving me with that answer, I have to say. It's obviously, I don't know the product that you're talking about. I don't know the women's market at all. My personal experience is menswear and children's wear. I would say there's one thing that you do need to consider, whatever market you're in, is make sure your profit margins are healthy. And so whether it's the low end volume, the high end, more luxury, margin is absolutely key and critical to anything you do. So you've got to do your research. You've got to work out, the product that you're looking at. Is it marketable? Is there demand for it? And make sure you can earn the margins, the profit margins you need to make it a success. I can't really answer the specifics of it, Claudio, because it would be, I just don't know the product you're talking about. But one other thing I would say, if you're starting out, the other thing you should consider is your cash flow. Cash flow is absolutely critical to any new business, irrespective of what that business is, because I can assure you, and I've learned this from personal experience, when you're running low on cash or you have cash flow issues, it affects your decision-making process. It puts tremendous pressure on you, and it's not a pleasant space to be. So just before you start, make sure you've done a realistic, stress-tested cash flow for your business, and then hopefully you've chosen the right product, the right market space, you've got the right margins, and you'll make a success of it.
Great.
Thank you.
I got a question that came in earlier from Katie Sayers Greaves. She's trying to sell her artwork. So quite different from chocolate and clothing, but any thoughts on selling direct to the public or via selling platforms, I guess like Etsy, or there are certain selling platforms. Any words, pearls of wisdom from any of you?
Okay, I'll start.
Thank you.
I think it depends on the market. Is it artwork, as in, is it cards and greeting cards?
No, it's proper art. Like she said, like saatchiart.com, proper art painting.
Okay, so art to go on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think the goal for something like that is probably looking at things like where the Affordable Art Fair used to be. But obviously that's not happening, but there's quite a lot of support for new artists being able to start up online. And I also think that actually if you've got the flexibility to do something like that, if you can add a separate business of graphic design to it, once you've got the skills, then that's got a really, really high rate of success at the moment. So I think I would probably look at it as a multi-platform, that the wall art is one thing, but I would start to look at cards and things like that, and I would also start to look at designs that you could sell to other people, so you're not completely dependent on one revenue stream. I think multi-platform selling is absolutely the way to go. When Mark and I started, you could make an awful lot of money just having one stream of wholesale. And I think Mark, and I'm sure Ollie would agree, actually that's not the case anymore now. Now everybody needs a multi-platform.
I'm going to ask, thanks Sarah, that's brilliant. I'm going to ask a question which I hope one of you or two of you might be able to answer, because I think it is becoming increasingly important, and on all of the trend documents that I've been reading for retail, it's becoming very, very important. Is what's your thoughts on creating sustainable brands, focusing on the environmental footprint, and also I guess, understanding thoughts on buying from ethical suppliers who have you know, who are not engaged in child slave labor and everything? What's, I mean, it's kind of two separate, but it's the whole ethical, environmental, shopping focus, retail focus.
Probably best answer, considering we're organic, fair trade, we have compostable, I'm sure you know, as you know, Joe, compostable foil, and for us, it was a big focus. We've been doing it for far too long. Even a couple of years ago, we were thinking of scrapping it because people really care. But suddenly, you know, out of the woodworks, people really cared about, you know, zero waste and plastic free. So we really, we were really well placed to really tap into that, and it really did help with sales. A lot of offices before lockdown, you know, they were buying our products because they really tick with their ethos of making sure that there was zero waste, plastic free, fair trade and organic. People do care about it. I think sometimes we say we care about it more than we actually do. I think when you go into a shop and you look at a bar of chocolate, you know, and you've got your money to spend, you know, I think you would like to say that you're going to buy something because it's, you know, fully compostable, it's organic, it's fair trade. But, you know, ultimately we buy with how much money we think something's worth. And sometimes a lot of people, you know, they'll say that they want to be buying these things, but it's not as easy as just, you know, parting with £3 to buy a bar of chocolate. You know, there's so much choice out there, and you know, it's great to have these credentials, and I think it's going to be more and more impactful going forwards. I think, you know, there's so much talk at the moment of what's going on in the world and how we can help. So the more that you can do these things, it's great to say that you can do it, but also, you know, Mark mentioned margins are so key, and having organic, fair trade, compostable foil, it all eats into your margins. So you've got to be really careful about what you do offer and your price points, and everything that goes into it.
Any thoughts, Mark, from you at all?
Well, I'm in the sort of designer clothing business. There's not too much in terms of sort of ecological concern, let's say. But what I would say is this: if it's part of your business model, part of your brand, as it clearly is with Ollie, then it's front and center of what you do, and then that's absolutely, you know, correct and the way it should be. If it's sort of not front and center of your business model, then all I can say is you just try. First of all, you've got to make a success of your business. That's the most important thing. And within that, you run an ethical business. We all try and run an ethical business. Obviously, none of us would ever knowingly use factories that employ children or anything like that. But whether it's relevant to most people's businesses, if I can be honest, I would say probably not. But that doesn't mean that you don't run your business in the most ethical way that you possibly can. Of course, we all should do that.
Have you got any brands that are kind of, you know, like, for example, I know in women, Stella McCartney, you know, is very is very focused towards environmental materials, and I'm guessing there are some designer brands that are more ecologically better.
Yes, there's a trend. There is a trend towards it, and we follow the leads from the brands. And for example, fur. There is a move away from we sell Montclair as a brand, for example, and their most popular coats have fur on the hoods, and they're still offering that. And to be honest, we still buy it because that's the most popular design for a Montclair coat. Now, they themselves are moving away from it, and as such, we will follow suit. We are customer led at the end of the day, and I can't, you know, I don't want to pretend that we're not. If our customers want a nylon coat with a fur hood, then we can't afford not to supply them, because, you know, we are in the business of making a profit, and if we don't make a profit, we don't survive. So we're not necessarily encouraging it, but we're realistic about it, and that puts us in a very different market space to Ollie's business. And so I think it's really, I'd say it's horses for courses here. You know, if you can bringing these elements into your business plan, I think that's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. At the end of the day, the business has to work, and everyone has to be quite clear about that.
Joe, can I add one thing?
Of course.
I think we've seen, actually, as Ollie's describing, that people actually do understand sustainability and supporting the environment, and especially where food is concerned, people are prepared to pay a premium. I don't see that premium coming through in clothing at the regular high street end of the market, and I don't see it coming through in clothing, and I don't see it coming through in jewellery. I think if you're at the Moncler end of the market, I think people are buying a Moncler coat regardless of the fur. I think they're buying it because of the brand. And I think it's this, the Stella McCartney is a slightly different issue, but generally on the high street, people are not paying, we're not seeing people pay more for something because it comes from an ethical brand. I mean, certainly I've got a jewelry supplier who does jewelry from ethical silver. The price point is a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, and people don't understand it and they're not willing to pay.
Okay, thank you. That's really, really good point. What about Mark? Back to you. Another retail trend is that stores, when they can open, need to kind of entertain and engage customers, and they can't just be, that they can't just be kind of drawn in just because of the store. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely essential. If you, and the buzzword is theatre. That's the cliche. Every store has to have theatre in it, whatever it is. It could be just having a video screen as a basic starting point, or even more basic than that, just a light box with a bright brand image in it. But you have to do something with the store space. I mean, we pay a lot for our stores. The rents normally are expensive, and you pay business rates, and therefore you've got to use the space. Not just sit there waiting for people to come in. You've almost got to drag customers into the stores now. We did have a plan, and we were doing it over the last few months. We're having events in stores. We host influencers, for example, and where we could, we would invite influencers and their family or friends in, and we'd offer them cakes, biscuits, sandwiches, etc. And they bring their kids in, and then they post all their experience on Instagram. And that's a tremendous opportunity to build up a social following. And I think that's something that I would mention, by the way, I just thought of it, that marketing through social media is absolutely key and critical to any business today. And we look at Instagram as our #1 social avenue. So we're trying to grow our followers on Instagram. And the only way we can do that is by doing interesting things within our business. And as I said, we want to use stores to our advantage. It actually is something that many of our competitors don't have, bricks and mortar stores. So yeah, back to the point, absolutely essential to make best use of any space that you have.
Any other questions from anybody? If nobody else has got a question, then I would like to continue on that theme of social media, or best ways of generating traffic to your e-commerce stores, or stores in general, but I'd say e-commerce. But please, you guys, we've got probably like 3 or 4 more minutes left, so if anybody's got any more questions, please put them on the chat. But while I'm waiting for those, any thoughts? Well, Ollie, how do you go about generating traffic? You mentioned Facebook and Instagram, but how do you generate traffic?
I have no idea. I'll be honest with you. I employ Sara, who works in the hub, and she looks after our marketing and social media. I guess, being my age, it was just at the start of social media, but I never really got it. So my sort of Facebook and Instagram knowledge is very, very little. But I understand that it's crucial to our business. How and what Zara does, it's something that I really do not know. But we've built a really nice sort of following online. Our engagement is very good, and that really helps build that brand awareness as well. But it's really, really difficult. You've got, this is social media is an area that you weren't employing people for their social media prowess, really. and now you are. It's a job title in itself,
Yeah.
social media manager or whatever it is. And this wasn't something that we were doing many years ago. And influencers and all these things, it's that is a job for somebody, and it's incredible what you can do on a platform such as Instagram. It's really something that I don't understand and don't get. But I know for Seed and Bean as a business, it's great use of to engage our customers.
Yeah. Mark, any other top tips on the social media or on generating business to leads and revenue leads to your e-commerce?
Yeah, I think Ollie made an excellent point. And the point is, even if you don't understand it yourself, and I don't like yourself, Ollie, I don't understand social media. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not even on LinkedIn. So I really block all social aspects. But what I do recognize is that it's absolutely essential for brand awareness. And it is the modern marketing of today. This is the old-fashioned TV, radio, on the side of buses, advertising. And if you don't understand social media, then make sure you're in contact with someone that does. There's agencies out there that specialize in it. There's individuals that will work with you, but do not, under any circumstances, ignore the power of social media. It is the modern marketing tool of today. And for us, it's front and center of our business. And I don't understand it, but I know that I need people on board that do understand it.
So we've got thank you, Mark and Dolly. We've got a very reticent audience. Just by the way, if anybody, we have got people that can, we've got suppliers who we can pass on to you for social media if you want help. Jodie Cavendish has a question. Jodie, please unmute yourself and you're very welcome. There you are.
Camera. Oh, terrible. Hi, everyone. Sara, you mentioned that it's easier to sell to independents rather than direct to majors. So I've got some stock that was actually produced for Laura Ashley, but unfortunately, obviously, that's no longer useful. So I wonder, obviously, it's a big investment to ship the stock and then to try and sell that to independents. So I wonder your advice on that, if you have any.
I think everything's changed. I think if you asked me the question last week, I would say get some samples, have them photographed. First of all, Jodie, is it furniture or is it fashion?
Homeware, and I have samples here.
You've got samples here. Okay, is it one size?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, brilliant, lovely. I think that I would then, without telling me what it is in a public forum, is it something you can move, or is it a sofa?
Oh no, I'm happy to say it's just decorative homeware, so trays.
Okay, fine. Then I definitely think that it's worth you approaching independents, but right now I would look at independents that are online, and I would look at who are the people who Laura Ashley were competing with in that marketplace and go to them. I would just be mindful of it. Is it branded Laura Ashley?
No, I've rebranded it with my own brand, but to be perfectly honest, happy to white label or to make it.
Okay, so brilliant. So if you're flexible to do white label or your own brand, then I would look at the people in the marketplace that they compete with on a price level and sort of I don't mean taste level. I just mean in terms of where they sit. Is it Art Deco? Is it flowers? I would presume that it's more on the floral side if it was Laura Ashley. Look at the people who are in that marketplace and approach them direct to sell online. Most people, from what I've had in the last 24 hours, are only taking things that are sale or return.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and if you need to ship it for sale or return, then that's much more problematic. But everybody is thinking, oh my goodness, I've got 7 weeks till Christmas. Oh, but I don't know what's going to happen. And I think, unfortunately, there is a general feeling of absolute blind panic in retail now, which is one of the reasons why we've lost Stuart from the panel. And everybody is trying to cancel anything that they can get out of, and it is a problem. Online is the way to go. Sorry, Jodie, if that's negative. I just want to try and be realistic.
Yeah, realistic. Yeah.
Jodie, you could also, I mean, try and set it I mean, sell it through Amazon or eBay yourself with your own label, and maybe, you know,
Or
as yeah, or other marketplaces. But whenever there's, as I said earlier, whenever there's a difficulties, it also possibly leads to opportunities as well. And if you can turn this into an opportunity and a positive to almost create your own brand and sell it directly, earning like a retail margin as opposed to a wholesale margin, you know, maybe just worth a punt, worth trying.
Or it's the investment and shipping it and then holding it in a warehouse. It's whether that is a good option or a silly option. I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
difficult.
Really, look, I'm just very aware of the time and everybody's diaries. Amir, if you want to stay on and ask Sara your question at the end about certifications and regulations for food, eco-friendly food products, she might be able to help. Otherwise, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Ollie, to Mark and to Sara for giving us some really interesting food for thought about the retail trade, as it was a tricky time before the pandemic, and now even trickier. Although, as Ollie said, you know, there are some ups, and Mark, both of you have said, you know, there's been a good uptake on online, but it is still, you know, a very tricky market. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to them for being on the panel, and much appreciate your time and expertise. And thank you to all of you for turning up.
Thank you.
If anybody wants any help from Work Avenue, then please come to our website or email me. You know, we're here to help. Kim and I are here to help. So thank you very much and have a good day.
Joe,
Thank you very much.
Joe, can I just say, just quickly, if anyone wants to contact me afterwards, they're more than welcome. And look, just wanted to say to everyone, it's a fantastic ambition to have your own business. It's the best thing you can possibly do in life. Make it successful. Don't give up on it, no matter how hard things might seem, because to be your own boss is a very special place to be, and you only appreciate that when you have to answer to other people, and you know what that's like. So so I wish everyone the best of luck.
Thanks, Mark. And if anybody
I would echo that. I've always said I'm happy to answer any questions after this. And Mark, I agree with you. I've always said if you can't find the job that you like, then create one of your own.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so Joe, I'm answering another question on food.
Yes, I think if Amir stays on,
well, that's hard.
While people are coming, while people are leaving, Amir, are you still there, Amir? I can't see you. Maybe he's gone. Amir. No, maybe he's gone, but I might be able to connect him with you later. He was asking about certifications and regulations for kind of eco-friendly food contests. Actually, Ollie, you're probably a better person. Do you mind if I connect you to?
Yes.
I'll connect, if you don't mind, I'll connect Amir to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. He's still there. I can see him. But
Amir?
He's on mute. I don't know.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. There we are.
Right, yes, I think I pressed something. Hi, yes, a question for Sara. Yeah, you mentioned about regulations and the hoops that the retailers make you jump through.
Yeah.
Trying to develop kind of a range of environmental product for home use, things like cling films and all kind of alternatives to plastic. My question is, what are the retailers asking to see in terms of certifications, regulations? Do they ask to see your BRCs and things like that, if you know?
I don't actually have experience in the plastics side, so I can answer part of it, but Ollie might be a better source of information. It's definitely about they want to see everything about the manufacture of it. So they want to know where it's manufactured. They'll probably send somebody to check it out. They want to know where it's packaged. They want to know where your it's not the ingredients, but whatever the substrate is that you're starting with. They probably want to know where that's come, and they want to see the traceability on that. So there's all of that going on. There's then the financial side of how stable are you. They don't want to work with somebody who's not stable and who can't deliver. Ollie, what would you add to that?
Yeah, they definitely want to see BRC certifications. There's different certifications that you can get, depending on the size of your business, because BRC is very, very expensive. So not all small businesses can afford to do BRC. So there are other, ways around it. But they'll ask to see it. They need proof. Every time that when we're selling our products, we have to. Our manufacturer is SALSA approved, so that's for small suppliers. They'll ask for a SALSA certification. They'll ask for your fair trade certification, organic certification. We have a compostable foil. Some of them just take your word for it because it's really quite new. But some of them will say, well, what is it? Can you show me, something that says that this is compostable and how it breaks down, et cetera, so you'll need to, every person will want something different, but for sure you're going to have those certifications, because no one's going to, in this day and age, no one's going to take your word for it. You have to make sure that you can, as you said, you mentioned BRC. If that's how you manufacture it, then they'll need to see that.
So, Ollie, I don't know whether this was your experience. It's certainly mine that on the other side, on the buying side, we used to have a team of people who we'd send out to do all of this. And if it was a travel abroad, the supplier would pay for that with no obligation at all that we would then buy from you. Ollie, I don't know whether that was your experience. And I don't know where you manufacture.
So we manufacture in the UK, so we wouldn't have those issues. We've never had anyone question us or want to come and see us to that level. So I don't really know, but ultimately we want to be in these retailers, and if the retailer is going to say, well, we need this and this and this, and we want to come and visit you, and if they turn around and say, and you've got to pay for that, you're going to say yes, because if you say no, then they'll just turn around and say, well, I'm going to go and find someone else. It's really, really difficult, and I think a lot of people can sometimes get excited by the opportunity, and they'll do whatever it takes. And sometimes, whatever it takes, if it means paying for someone's train to come and visit you, paying for someone's flight, that's very, very small in the grand, picture of everything. But sometimes you can say no, and there's no issue with saying no to whoever might approach you, whether it's, from my side, whether it's a Tesco's, whether it's Sainsbury's, whether it's a Waitrose. It has to be right for you, because they will pull your pants down on price and everything. And if it doesn't work for you, you're going to lose money. Do not ever do anything if it's not going to work for you. It might be fantastic being in 200, 300, 400, 500 stores, but if you're not going to make your margins and you're not going to make money on any sales, there is no point doing it. Only go into it when it is right for you. That's what I will say. But alluding back to your the question about certification, you'll need that 100%. In today's day and age, you need everything that you can to support what you're selling.
Great, thanks, Ollie. Okay, everybody, given the time, I'm kind of more than aware that we try to keep these things on. I'm going to stop recording and thank everybody for their time, and have a